Hey, you've got this part of the video. You've got the live unedited edition. Home Gadget Geeks, Thursday night. It's the 23rd of February. Hard to believe February is almost over already. It's 8 p.m. in the Central Time Zone, 9 Eastern, 7 Mountain, 6 Pacific. Did I get that right? Yeah. And if you're listening, you caught us live, or you might have caught the recording. If you got the recording, that's okay. Hang tight. We'll get started here in just a second. If you are listening live, and I see Ken and John and Bob already out there, jump in and join us in chat. We'd love to have you while we're at it. You may not know him, but I know him. Randy Walker is with us tonight. We'll get started here in just a second. Randy, welcome to the pre-show.
Thanks. I don't usually hear this. I don't listen live, so this is the first time for me.
You can always catch the live. We record the live. It goes on a live channel. You can always catch it that way. It doesn't matter. Thanks for listening, by the way. Thanks for being a listener. We got. Let's do some pours. You're kind of a rum guy, right?
That is my go-to spirit for sure.
And that's okay. Hold on. Before we talk rum, let's just talk about like this thing in general. Bourbon is super hot right now. Everybody's buying the bourbons. I think this may be the time. Like if you're chasing bourbons and they're super expensive, I'm kind of wondering if rum might be the way to go. Like come back around to rum. Because I don't find it that there's not as many of them to begin with, at least not in our liquor stores. I don't know. What do you think? Are the prices? Where do you think rum prices are?
I would say you can get a really good bottle of rum for under $100.
Okay, you can get a pretty good bottle of bourbon for under 100. But yeah. I think, like, I bought an XO bottle of Plantation for my wife for Christmas, and it was like $65. It was a pretty nice bottle of rum, like $65. The bourbon, that's kind of the entry, it's 50 or 60 for some, anyways, just kind of wondering if bourbon, or if rum might be if you're sick of the bourbon or chasing bourbons, maybe coming back to, what do you like about rum? Why rum?
That's a good question. It doesn't, despite being made from sugar, it doesn't often have the sweetness that you get from bourbon.
Yeah. Well, that's, so unusual you say that, because I think a lot of people, like Joe says he likes rum, but it's too sweet. Do you think the cheaper rums are the sweeter rums, and then they get more sophisticated as they get a little more expensive?
Not necessarily. You can find a good inexpensive rum. For example, Plantation 3 Star is a good blended white rum, and that's around here, I think, $20 for a liter bottle.
Yeah. Bob says Eldorado 12 years.
Absolutely. That is a delicious sipping rum.
Yeah. That's something, I didn't really even start drinking spirits until I was probably 45 or 50. So like I came to it late. We would drink, the rum we drank was Captain, you'd mix it with Coke, right? Like everybody else does. But we've done some Bumbu, which is pretty good. Bumbu XO.
The XO is really good. I like the XO. The regular Bumbu is a little sweet for me. That tastes like you're drinking Bananas Foster in a glass.
Yeah, it's pretty good that way. I mean, it just depends what you're,
for sure,
kind of what you're looking for. I do the XO. What kind of casks they're put in? Do you remember some kind of is it sherry or?
That could be.
What I think it's sherry casks that they put those in to give it and of course they age it a little bit longer because of that. Yeah, we've kind of, Bumbu has kind of become our table rum. So we've always got a bottle of Bumbu. If you just want some regular rum, that's just kind of what you go with. We got some XO we drank all our XO. So sure. What are you drinking tonight? What do you got?
Tonight I am drinking freshwater rum. Let me hold it up to the camera.
Yeah, hold on. Let me get you. Let me make you big screen. There we go. Freshwater rum.
This is made by New Holland Spirits here in Michigan, so it's a Michigan rum.
Oh, nice.
Over on Lake Michigan on the west coast of Michigan.
New Holland, 40%?
40%.
And what do you like about it? What's the flavor profile?
This is a good, mellow, not overly characteristic. It's got some caramel and butterscotch notes to it. Not a lot of harsh alcohol bite. It's a good cocktail mixing gold rum for sure.
Nice.
I happen to be drinking a cocktail.
So what else? What's in the cocktail besides
this is the best way to taste rums, in my opinion. This
okay.
is a daiquiri.
Oh,
So
nice.
it is 2 ounces of rum, 1 ounce of lime juice, and I do 3/4 of an ounce of simple syrup. If you like it a little sweeter, you can do an ounce. But shake it together with ice and strain it, and that is a great way to compare rums too. If you're drinking multiple rums, try them all in a daiquiri. You'll get some of the differences that you might not pick up if you're tasting them just neat.
I think some people would associate maybe daiquiris with sweet candy, like
Yeah, the frozen neon
yeah,
strawberry things.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Not that's not
not
the
the
case.
traditional cocktail.
Not, yeah,
Yeah,
not the case in this one. Well, that's yeah. I like. I think we drink a lot of whiskey, but I we do will the Sarah likes the rums,
Mhm.
and so those show up. We are Duclaw. This another one sent by John here. So Pastryarchy, Unicorn Farts After Dark is what this is called, which is just a great name. Chocolate
I like it.
Cinnamon Crunch Breakfast Stout, 8.5%. He sent a whole 16-ounce can on that, John. Thanks for sending that out.
Now with that
Um,
description and that name, that sounds like a sweet drink to me.
Let me hold on. Let me get a little. There's a little darkness to it, actually. Not too sweet. Not like a dark chocolate that's kind of
Okay. Yeah.
tart, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Um, limited release from Duclaw Brewing, and it's actually that how dark chocolate's got a little pasty.
Mhm.
When you have it, it's got that taste to it. He says it's got some, and I don't know if I got my lights bright enough. Let's see. He said it's got some glitter in it. Nah, no, you're not going to be able to see it. Shoot.
Yeah, I don't see it.
Says it. No, it's not. I'll have to check it out later. But 8.5%. I didn't pregame tonight, so I've got a little room for it. I didn't make very much room for it 2 weeks ago with Gavin, and that 9.5 got me. So John, thanks for sending that. I appreciate it. And if you want to do that, just send me an email, jim@theaverageguy.tv, and we'll get that hooked up. I got one more beer from John, and then for next week, I think Sammy's on next week. And then Sammy, we finally got Sammy lined up. So she's coming back. And then we start beers from Aaron. Aaron Lawrence sent me some
Oh,
Alberta,
nice. Okay.
Canada beers. So you're close to Canada. Do you get much?
It's a 15-minute drive.
Yeah. Do you get much Canadian stuff in the local on the U.S. side of the border? Do you get Canadian stuff?
Probably. I'm not much of a beer drinker, but there are a lot of breweries over there. Just last month, I went with a group of friends and we did a pizza tour and where we tried Windsor style pizza, which is
Okay.
a thing. And we picked up like 5 or 6 pizzas from local pizzerias and met at a tap room and tried
Nice.
some beer there and to go with the
idea.
pizzas.
It's a good idea. Yeah. Well, they've got all their own versions, like the candy's different, like, and some of the cereals are a little bit different in the names, right? So just wondering how much of that you're in Detroit, so
Yes.
you're super close, right?
Yeah, I am
you can striking distance.
a 15-minute drive from the tunnel.
Yeah. Yeah, nice.
Over to Windsor, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Well. All right. Well, hold on. Let's get another taste of this. John. Ooh. Yeah, a little cinnamon. Not I could see the cinnamon toast crunch effect to it. You could Bob had said so you drink it at sunrise, the thing that comes after dark. That's right. Yeah. Well, the sun's already down here, so it's hard to see. John told me to get a light, and I didn't necessarily believe him. But yeah, it's too dark. Oh, I can see the glitter in it. It's just it's just kind of little, or those bubbles. Yeah, we'll find out later. Okay, guys, thanks for coming out tonight. Good to see you guys. John says there's gold. He says there's gold glitter floating in there. So I don't know if that's good or bad, John, just to be Bob says, are there notes of glitter? I'm not sure what glitter tastes like. That may be like glued. Isn't that when you think of glitter, you think of glue?
Absolutely. Yeah. Squeeze some glue on some construction paper
exactly.
and then dump glitter all over it and then shake off the excess glitter.
Yeah, that's 1974 all over again. Brian says, good evening, everybody. I'll be listening while driving home. Thanks for doing that. Bob says rum and Coke. Cuba Libre.
That's also another good drink. I do enjoy a Cuba Libre.
Do you? Yeah. No, rum's a good one. We have gotten Sammy has kind of gotten into bourbon with me, so
Okay.
or whiskey. So we'll kind of just say, hey, what do you want to do? Pick one of the 7 whiskeys. I think we probably have 3 or 4 different rums.
I do want to say, if you're looking for a good rum to branch out to, if
Yeah.
you're not, if you're getting tired of the bamboo, the Bacardi 8-year is fairly easy to find. It's fairly common and fairly inexpensive. Here in Michigan, it's $30 a bottle, and it's a good sipping rum. I drink it on the rocks.
Bacardi 8-year. Is that what you said? Bacardi 8?
Yes. Okay. Bacardi Reserva Ocho.
Okay. Yes. The right way of saying it.
Yeah. And some rum people are kind of sticklers because Bacardi doses it. They add sugar to it to help smooth out the taste, but it's a few grams per liter.
Yeah.
So you're not gonna,
get
a sugar high from that.
Yeah. No. I kind of want to have, especially with the price of, with bourbons being so hot, the prices have gone up a little bit. I've kind of been looking at, I kind of been looking at rum. It's kind of like, well, it'd be a good alternative to get into.
Yeah, Bob said the El Dorado 12-year. That's a great sipping rum. I drink that neat on the rocks if I want to dilute it a little bit.
Do you with rum? Do you think you do it on the rocks more than neat? About the same? What do you? Because I'm a big neat guy. I try not to add ice to anything, but
I definitely will try it neat first, and then I will also try it on the rocks to see which way I like better. Sometimes the coldness can help mellow out some of the harsher tones, and sometimes the dilution will help open up some flavors, just like you get in bourbon. So
yeah,
it's good to try it both ways, see which way you like it, and sometimes I'll drink the same rum both ways depending on how my night's going.
We bought some of those, cap, the little pouring, and put it on, and so because it's some of those bottles are hard to pour. And they get messy, right? So just what are those called? I forget for them.
Pour spouts.
Yeah. So I don't know. I bought a dozen of them just so we'd always have them, in between washing and stuff like that. That's really helpful. Like, especially when you're trying to pour neat amounts or you're trying to pour measured amounts or whatever. It just makes it a lot.
Have you ever watched a bartender struggle with a bottle of Patron, that square short neck bottle?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And the pour spouts don't fit in there because it's a bigger opening hole. So
yeah. Well, I bought both some of the small and the big ones, right? So just so we wouldn't, just so we could do it. But yeah. Okay. Let's get this thing going. I'd probably talk rum all night, but we should probably chat a little bit about technology. 1 second here.
It is a tech podcast.
It is.
Nominally.
No, barely at sometimes. Okay, let me do this thing. This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks, show number 563 with guest Randy Walker, recorded on February 23rd, 2023. Here on Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.tv studio here in a chilly, I think, hopefully we're at the end of winter. Bellevue, Nebraska is 9 degrees now, but it's supposed to warm up. And, of course, we'll post the show with some world-class show notes out at the AverageGuy.tv. Don't forget this episode, affiliate sponsor is Nespresso. Use the code MQU, just like Mike, Queen, uniform. I'm not sure that's what Q is, but 328 and get $40 off your first purchase of a machine and a free capsule dispenser. If you're drinking bad coffee, stop. Like, there's easy ways to do it. Keurig's okay, but Nespresso's a lot better. And if you want to give it a try, and one of you did this week, you can check it out now. Go to Nespresso.com, use the code MQU328. Get $40 off that first machine and give it a try. They got some reasonable options for you. Stop drinking bad coffee. Big thanks to Gavin Campbell, who joined us 2 weeks ago. Thanks for giving me the week off last week. And big thanks to Gavin. A great show and a good time. And if you listened all the way to the end, big thanks to John Biggs, who's been sending me this month's beer tries. And we did the Pastryarchy Unicorn Farts After Dark. It's exactly what you think it is. Chocolate cinnamon crunch breakfast stout. And so if you listen to the end of the show, that beer was like 9.5, and I was having trouble speaking at the end. So John, thanks for those beers. Gavin, thanks for coming on. Big thanks to our Patreon subscribers as well. If you're finding value in this podcast and you want to give back, you can join us, theaverageguy.tv/Patreon. Randy Walker is with us tonight. Randy's been a longtime listener and reached out to me and said, hey, let's chat. And I said, yeah, let's do that. Randy, welcome to Home Gadget Geeks.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to have you. How long do you go back? Like, where do you think you entered into the Home Gadget Geeks?
When you were talking about getting new monitors. I remember that topic chiming in on Twitter, but I don't.
Okay. Was that a couple years?
Probably 2 years now at this point.
2 years ago? Okay. Yeah. What keeps you around? Like, why do you keep listening? I know it sounds weird, but why do you keep listening?
You have a variety of tech topics. I'm a general purpose geek of all trades, so you have a variety of topics that keep me interested.
You do some cooking, right?
I do cooking, for sure.
You enjoy to cook. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
You enjoy some beverages
I do.
as well. And in the pre-show, we're talking a little bit about it. You like rum.
I love rum.
And so that's not what for those who missed the pre-show. If you were to pitch rum to somebody maybe who's never tried it before, why should they at least give it a try the next time they're in their local establishment?
Rum is generally a more inexpensive spirit compared to the pricey things like tequila and bourbon. It's not as common, so there's that little bit of a uniqueness factor. You go to your neighborhood dive bar or whatever, they've got Bacardi and Malibu, and maybe they have Captain, and maybe they have Myers' dark rum. But if you go to a decent cocktail bar, you'll have a variety of rums to try from that have a variety of flavor profiles that have a broader appeal. Some taste like green vegetables, some taste rich and molassesy, some taste like overripe fruit. There's a whole variety of flavors in just base rums, and then all the cocktails you can make from them.
Yeah.
Tiki drinks are a big user of rum.
Yeah. What do you, if you were to give some, like if somebody wanted to try a rum in your average bar, what would be a good one to ask for, do you think?
I would say common rum you could find would be Plantation 3-Star. It's kind of a white mixer rum. It's a blend of 3 different types of rums. It's fairly inexpensive. They sell it here in liter bottles. The Bacardi 8-year is a good sipping rum. I like it on the rocks. And then if you want to go fancy, Eldorado 12-year is great, neat. If you want to go even fancier, the Eldorado 21. But that's getting up there. If you order just a pour of it.
We had a 14-year rum that my son bought and brought over, and it's worth it. Like you start tasting some of those, and you're like, oh, this is pretty good. What about like, even a lot of people know Captain Morgan. What if, and they've got some higher end, some higher shelf rums. Would it be worth giving any of those a try?
I would generally avoid the flavored or spiced rums to start, just so you get a baseline of what rum should actually taste like. And I have this rule that the higher the rank, the worse the rum is. So Admiral Nelson is horrible. Captain Morgan is bad. And Sailor Jerry is probably what I would drink if I was drinking spiced rum.
Okay. All right. Yeah. What about Kraken? Does that show up on your...
No, that's too sweet and syrupy for me.
That makes your stomach bleed.
Yeah,
that's a
pass for me.
We should have talked about all this in the pre-show. By the way, if you're a regular listener and you only catch the podcast, this is generally the conversation we have on the pre-show. I didn't mean to get there, but while I had Randy, it seemed like it was a good idea to maybe and I got some questions about rum. I mean, we drink enough of it, and so Randy, thanks for that. Randy, you're out of the Detroit area, and I say that, but you're actually in Detroit.
I am, as of last August, living in the city of Detroit now.
Yeah. Okay. So why Detroit, and why go back to the city? All we hear from the news is it's how the city's imploding and everybody's moving out. And it's terrible. Obviously, you're in a different spot.
Yeah, I'll probably, well, let's see, what is it? About 12 years ago, I moved down. I would lived up in the middle of the state. I don't know if you've had any Michigan friends or Michigan guests, but the whole hand map,
Mm-hmm.
the state of
Mm-hmm.
Michigan looks like a mitten, so you point to where you grew up or where you're from. So I grew up here in the middle of Michigan, a bunch of cow fields, and actually the city or the town, it's not even close to a city. The town I grew up in had got its first traffic light and its first fast food restaurant when I was in high school.
Mm.
But it is the plastic thermoforming capital of the world.
Really?
So like, truck bed liners and
Yeah.
anything that's
Yeah. Yeah.
molded plastic.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but after I graduated from college, I got a job working for one of the big 3 auto manufacturers. So I moved down here and have moved closer and closer to the city proper as the years have gone on, and now I live in the city.
Wow. Things getting better or
Oh, yeah, they've been improving for
okay.
probably the last it
Yeah.
there have been some very rough patches in Detroit's history.
Yeah.
As an outside observer, for most of the time, I would say the last decade to 15 years has been a huge improvement. It's getting better. The pandemic kinda set things back a little bit just because, businesses and
Yeah.
attractions couldn't operate for a long
Like in every
time.
city. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think everybody suffered a little bit. Yeah.
But yeah, I like living here. I live in a great neighborhood. It's
How do you feel like the tech scene is in Detroit? You feel like it's a good like
yeah.
it's coming
Th
back, it
there's
never left?
it's a growing tech scene. I keep seeing articles pitching Detroit as the next, Silicon Valley.
Oh, that's
As
ambitious.
Yeah, well, you have the big 3 auto manufacturers here.
Yeah. Are they still
Um,
there? I mean, is there still production going on in Detroit?
yeah, there's Michigan
Okay.
facilities, Detroit
Okay.
facilities. I live just 3 miles away from, a Chrysler facility,
Mhm.
uh, plant. Um I work in a building owned by General Motors. I don't
Okay.
work for General Motors, but I work in a building owned by General Motors. Um, so yeah, the big 3 are still doing strong. Ford is renovating the Michigan Central Station train station to be their new
Oh, that's
headquarters.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
saw
that's
that.
in the Corktown neighborhood just, west of downtown. So
Yeah.
that's gonna be a huge draw. That neighborhood is getting s it has been great. It's been fun, and now it's getting even more appealing for nightlife and residential.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, you'd hate to see I mean, Detroit has such a storied history in America
Mhm.
and, tied to our automobile, tied to Motown,
Mhm.
our music, blues, all those things, right? That Detroit. You just you wanna root for it. Like, you
Yeah.
really like, come back. Don't die. So, good to hear that
Yeah, and
it's
then we've got
still doing okay.
the Rocket family of companies here that used to be Quicken Loans, owned by Dan Gilbert,
Oh,
owns
yeah.
the
Right.
Cavaliers, and,
Yeah. Yeah.
so they've got a whole bunch of technology companies, and they have a bunch of smaller companies that are part of their family of companies that, one of the big ones that I'm thinking of, or a couple of tech-focused ones would be Detroit Labs, which is a company that does both app development and, contracts out to employers who need developers. And then there is a boot camp, called Grand Circus, which boot camps don't generally do well, but they have been around for the longest time, and they're quite popular. And they're the graduates of that boot camp definitely get hired because I help run a tech networking group
Mm.
in the city.
And what for the boot camps, what are they like, what kinda languages are they running? What's working? 'Cause I 5 years ago, I was trying to hire out of these boot camps, and I know
Yeah,
things have changed, but so
one of the
what's
big ones
hireable at this point?
yeah, one of the big ones they do is Java.
Okay. And that's still working, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Plus, when you learn Java, you learn C style, so you can easily transition to something like PHP
Yeah.
or something C sharp if you need to.
Yeah, we hired a lot of C# developers,
Mhm.
to
And
do
I'm
that.
sure they do others. That's just one I happen
Yeah.
to know of, and I don't
Yeah,
even know
yeah.
if they do that anymore. That's just the last I happen to know, but they do boot camps.
Okay. Talk a little bit about what you do. Let's get to know you a little bit.
Yeah.
What's your day job? What do you do?
So my day job, I am an instructional developer. So I make computer-based training. I do some design too of like determining what needs to be trained, how to train it, but my focus and my skill set leans more towards the developer of actually implementing your ideas into computer-based training. Or sometimes I do like, here's how you would translate these learning needs into an instructor-led training as well.
Where has that technology gone as far as the delivery mechanism of it? And yeah, that I made that sound like it had disappeared. No, I mean, like,
Yeah.
is it? Are we seeing better technology? Remember the old learning modules, and you like,
And
yikes, what are
that's
we doing
all
here?
on the person who makes it. The tool set has
Yeah,
always
yeah,
been fairly robust. It's just how much time you have, how much skill you have in related technology. Like, not only do you need to know the authoring tools to build this training, but you also then need to know video production, audio editing, graphic design. Like, all of those things are components of a good, well-designed computer-based training course.
yeah. I've always been a little skeptical of them just because that's not the best way for me to learn, just to be
Sure.
honest. I'm kind of I wanna go hands-on
Mhm.
and get that. What do you think, today in 2023 as we think about computer-based training, what are the best what's in that industry, what are the best people doing? How they
I would say
what's
there are
happening there? Yeah.
2 routes to go for this. The
Okay,
first route is micro training, where
okay.
you do, like, the smallest topic possible and just train that so that you can do it in bite-sized chunks, so you're not learning, like, how to build a car, but you're learning, like, here's how to, this is a horrible example, but, here's how you change your wiper blades or something like that.
Yeah.
So you break it down into the smallest parts you can that are still cohesive and an important topic. The other thing that is really popular trend these days in e-learning is gamification, turning the learning into a game. So not only just presenting the information, but tasking the learner to do something with that information or rewarding them, giving them positive feedback, tracking their progress, making their progress visible so they can see where they're doing, how they're doing it, giving them interactivity so they're not just sitting and listening or sitting and reading. Make them click
Mhm.
things, make them move things, make it like a game,
Yeah.
but educational.
Yeah, something a little more interesting than just
Yeah.
watching a screen.
Mhm.
Uh, Today, or if my dryer, I have a new one, but I had an old dryer that would break from time to time, and
Sure.
I'd go on YouTube and I'd, look for I put my dryer model in broken, and then I'd watch a handful of videos of guys, not professionals at
Mhm.
all, but they would get me the just in time information that I needed
Yeah.
to be able to get it fixed.
Mhm.
Has any of that in the computer-based training space, has any of that kind of began to bleed in a little bit where we can get, where we're using more hands-on video or any of those kinds of things, personalities to deliver that stuff?
A lot of the stuff I develop training for is how to use particular pieces of software. So
Okay.
whenever possible, I build interactions in where it's a simulation of how you would actually
Mhm.
use a software. So I'll give some information about what the software does or what this particular feature is, and then I will say, "Here's how you do it," and then I put up like a you try out for the learner where to do X, click Y button or whatever. And
Yeah.
so make them actually click and interact. And it looks just like the software because I would say over half of the time it is either screen recording or a
Mm.
series of screenshots that I have captured that I build the interactivity into the computer-based training.
Yeah. Yeah, the learning model on YouTube's crazy, and when you think about the stuff that you're doing versus like what's coming out on Lynda or some of the other,
Mhm.
some of the other training, how does that compare? How is it different? How is it the same?
Um, a lot of methodology is the same. A lot of what you actually end up doing in these trainings is similar as a learner. Um, I try to avoid talking head.
Okay.
We're doing a podcast talking head right now, but I try to avoid just that
Most
on
listen to
screen.
just the audio though, to
Yeah.
be honest.
Yeah. Um, but you also have to know who your audience is. My audience is not tech savvy. I actually develop training for nurses.
Okay.
So the technology is ancillary to their nursing job. They just happen to need to use this software to do it. So they're not tech savvy. So you have to be very basic when you're explaining software interactions and things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah, it's a big field. It's a big space. I think we still got some room in it to as we think about all the delivery mechanisms. Have you two questions along that as we think about the future? One, does VR or AR or any of those augmented reality spaces, putting a headset on or glasses or any of those kinds of things, when you think about some of your training, does that come up at all? Are you thinking about that from a future standpoint?
Not for my needs specifically, but I can definitely see that VR would be very big in the training space, especially for hands-on jobs that you need to train.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I got I bought the Oculus Meta, I guess it is now. And I've tried to do some of the hand things and it's okay. Like it's okay. Like I don't know if it's all the way there yet,
Yeah, some
for
of the things that require the controllers that you
right.
hold are
Right.
probably not as good as if you
Yeah.
just tried to directly track the hand.
Yeah.
But I don't think the technology is quite there yet
I
for
think
pointing
gloves. I
versus
think you
tapping.
need
Yeah,
gloves,
yeah.
just to be honest.
Mhm.
It'd be better that way. What about AI? I mean, that's been a big topic over the last couple months now as we're thinking about, I just today I went in, I'm doing a presentation tomorrow
Mhm.
for work. In one of the questions they're going to ask me, I just put into GPT, chat GPT and said, what do you think? And I'm not
Mhm.
going to take everything it said, but I had some good
Sure.
thoughts in the training space of being able to ask, like, again, in just in time training, being able to ask the question and get that stuff back. You're thinking about it all. Does it intrigue you?
I could see some use cases, maybe not in the just in time as a learner, but definitely for developing the training as, one of the hardest
Mm.
parts of my job would coming up with realistic scenarios or situations to demonstrate to the learner. So asking an AI to give me a scenario that uses this feature, this
Yeah.
software,
Yeah.
that I can then develop the training around that specific example.
Yeah. Kind of, well, you got me thinking, you mentioned nurses in
Mhm.
the, maybe in the medical space.
Oh yeah, there's definitely applications for AI there.
Yeah.
Patients
Yeah.
presenting with these conditions. Here are a
Right.
list of possible causes or.
I hadn't even thought about asking Chat GPT like medical
Mhm.
things. Like, my chest is kind of tight and my go to the emergency room right
Yeah,
now,
yeah. It's just
to deal.
WebMD with fewer steps.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Have you messed around with it much? I mean,
I
have you
haven't played with it at all
okay.
lately, and it's gotten really big in the last few months, but I just have
Yeah.
not had the free time to sit and
Yeah.
play with it.
For those listening, if you are you can kind of get access to it through Bing right now. So Microsoft just put it in there. It's not very good. They have a kind of a stripped down version and it's very hampered from what ChatGPT is. That's still open on I think. I have an account there and I jump into it from time to time and have been using it and getting some pretty good results. It's been
Mhm.
helping me write some stuff. So I'm going to keep working with it and just kind of see where it goes. But I could see in the training space that may be a great way of putting together outlines or thinking through, hey, one of the things I've been using it for is I'm thinking of these things. Are there other things I should be thinking about? And then it spits out a bunch of stuff and you go, oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of, okay. I didn't think about that. So,
I would think even everyday questions you might have might throw additional things at you that you might not have considered.
yeah.
Like, I just pulled up Bing, and the recommendation was a dinner party for vegetarians, and, I'm on the wait list, so I don't get the full
Yeah.
thing,
Not
but,
yet.
the
Not yet.
suggestion was, I need to throw a dinner party for 6 people who are vegetarian, and it says I can suggest you a three-course meal with chocolate desserts, and here's your starter, here's your main,
Yeah.
so
That's not bad.
yeah.
Like if you're not very creative that way, we started off the podcast talking about rum. You could say, I have rum and simple syrup, or I've got rum and these things. What kind of cocktail could I make?
Yeah.
Right?
Speaking of which, there's a great app I use for that, actually. I have my whole home bar inventory in this app, and then it tells me what I can make with what I have, but it also has the app is
Mm.
called Mixel, Mixel, and it has a feature called Maximizer where it says, if you buy this one more ingredient, it unlocks these 7 more recipes that you could make or things like that, so
Mixel, Mixel.
it's mixelcocktails.com.
Spell it
I've
again
been
for me
using this
one.
app for years now. It's great.
Spell it again one more time for me.
Mixel
Okay. Yeah.
cocktails.com.
I love that. And then how hard is it to put your inventory in there? I mean, as you bring new stuff in, scan
You
in pretty
just
easily, or
it gives like a generic name, so you might say a specific brand or something, and it'll just
okay,
give you a generic. That's an apricot liqueur or something like
yeah,
that, and then
yeah,
that helps you with your recipes that
huh,
might call for a specific brand, but you have a substitute or something as well.
yeah, yeah. That almost kind of reminds me, like in our in our bar area
Mhm.
of having a screen there, and
Yeah.
you've got all the stuff loaded in there, and then you could say, huh, surprise me. Remember the old on Google, you could say, I feel
I'm feeling
lucky.
lucky. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
So the cool thing about this app is it gives you all the IBA recipes for free, the International Bartenders Association, so all the
Mm,
classics. And then because recipes are not copyrightable, it gives
really?
you, if you pay a
Huh.
subscription, then it unlocks other sources
Huh.
from popular cocktail books and things like that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, recipes are just lists of ingredients and facts that tell you how to make it, so you can't really
Yeah.
copyright that. You can copyright the
Yeah.
presentation of the recipe, but you can't copy the ingredients or the steps.
I'm sure there's a way to do that with food where you would, you'd bring it in and
I think
uh,
there are similar apps for food,
yeah.
make this recipe or whatever, but
Yeah, hey, like, "Hey, I've got all this is what I got in the
yeah.
suggest something for me to
Mhm.
make
Mhm.
tonight. Tell me what I need to, tell me what I need. Okay, I'll have to check that out because that does sound interesting. Be like, hey, we've got a lot. I shouldn't say that's too loud, but we have a lot of ingredients at the house,
Yeah.
and so from a cocktail standpoint, that would be pretty cool.
Mhm.
Couple comments coming in from chat. John thinks that Chat GPT can help him get his appendix out, and Tony quickly says, "Yeah, don't do that." I wouldn't. I mean, it might tell you the steps to get it done. You probably don't want to do
Maybe
that
it'll tell
yourself.
you your
Yeah.
appendix and if it is inflamed and you should go to the hospital, but
Yeah, John said, he asked it to write a Hallmark movie plot based on cybersecurity. It was pretty funny. The title, "In Defense of Love," and infosec romance.
that is hilarious.
Yeah, there's some funny things you can do with it. Don't talk to it too long, though. It gets a little apparently it gets a little weird, the longer
Yeah, I
you're
think I heard that Microsoft is limiting how much you can
they
talk to
are.
it so it doesn't,
Yeah, I
get
think they're
too weird.
cutting there's like a time limit or an interaction limit right
Yeah.
now. They're like, okay, because people, and listen, people were trying, right? They were
Oh,
trying
yeah.
to, they were invoking it. Yeah, I mean, listen, if you took a human and invoke, did what you did, they'd lose their mind too. So be gentle on the soon to be sentient device. You do two podcasts, right? You're contributors.
Yeah,
Talk.
in my copious amounts of free time, I contribute to a podcast called Daily Detroit. It's a daily news podcast, what to know and where to go in Metro Detroit. So we talk about the latest in transit policy to what new bars and restaurants have opened and everything in between.
How does that? How's that? Because like I've heard people try to do that, and
Yeah.
it's hard, right? At least
It
how's it working for you guys?
so the creator, it's his full-time job.
Okay.
And then there are 5 other regular contributors that do something on the show. Either they're a guest for a segment, or they do behind the scenes where they help come up with story ideas, or I do a mix of contributing to the show, sometimes content, and sometimes I edit episodes.
Okay. What do you enjoy about it? Like, what is it that keeps you coming back to it?
It helps me explore the city. Contributing, finding, trying new restaurants and things
Yeah.
like that is one of the big things I do. So, having a reason to go explore, I get to talk about it with the co-host too, and all the listeners get to hear it and
Yeah.
hear my hot takes on if it's a worthwhile visit or if you should skip it and go to the next place.
The On Saturday mornings, I do this podcast with Dave Jackson, Ask the
Mhm.
Podcast Coach, and that comes up from time to time. I think every podcaster thinks you know how to do a local podcast, and then I think you start doing it, and you're like,
It's a
I
lot of work.
yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah. Do you feel like you get the for the work you put into it, do you get it back in ideas or in awareness of what's going on in the city that makes it maybe a better place for you?
For sure, for sure for me, um, and it helps me build connections with people around the city as well, but I definitely get a lot out of it,
Yeah.
as far as content and knowledge goes, for sure.
Yeah. Eh. I've often thought about doing one for Omaha,
Mhm.
and I just then I think, yeah, but I want a life. You know,
Yeah, no,
I gotta,
exactly. Yeah,
right?
like I said, it's a full time job for the creator, and then
Yeah,
5 of us contributing
yeah.
in our spare time.
I think it's a great idea. Detroit's a little bigger than Omaha.
Yeah.
So what's the population in the metro now?
Ooh, Metro is probably that's you put me on the spot. The city is around 680,000. I would say the
Uh,
metro is 3 to 5, depending on how you 3 to 5
okay,
million,
3 to 5 million.
depending
Yeah,
on how you define the metro area.
yeah. So probably twice as big as Omaha. Maybe three.
Mhm.
But yeah, again, I think about it all the time, but then I think, yeah, I don't have time. Tony says to out in chat, he says in 1961, a Russian doctor in the Antarctic took his own appendix out. Be a man, John Biggs. He's calling John out. And then Joe says in Russia, appendix take you out, and that's probably that's probably too good stuff, guys. Keep that going on there. And then you got another podcast as well, right? Called IT in the D.
Yeah, so
I
earlier
like
when I was
that
talking
name.
about the tech scene here in
Yeah.
Detroit, I mentioned that I help run a networking group. It's a casual social networking group for people who work in IT, and I joined that group in 2015. It was created, I want to say 2007, so well before I even lived in the Metro Detroit area. But I started attending the events in around 2015, and then around 2017, I joined the podcast. They started the podcast around 2015, just out of ideas that they were coming up with in conversations at the networking event.
Monthly? Is that what you said? You guys get together monthly?
It's a monthly meetup event.
Okay.
We try to do the podcast weekly, but it doesn't always work out. We get a lot of last minute guest constellations. We do
Yeah.
interviews with local tech movers and shakers and people who work in various industries in Detroit. We have everything from cybersecurity to cloud infrastructure. We just talk about what's going on in the scene
Mm-hmm.
lately that might be relevant to.
I've wanted to start a kind of a local meetup here in
Mhm.
Omaha, and I that's one of those things I started like 6 or 7 times, and then I never get past the second one or the first one. I do
Sure.
one. This is great. We should do it again. And then next thing I know, it's 9 months later. How do you guys how do you keep it going? What are your secrets for keeping it
Schedule
going?
multiple in advance.
Okay.
So
Okay.
don't schedule one and wait till
Yeah.
that's done. Also, regularly, we are the third Thursday of every month.
So it's same
Same,
regardless. You're just gonna
yes.
do it. How many do you
Um,
get to show up?
we have anywhere from a dozen to 100, depends
Okay.
on what's going on in the industry, what time of year it is, what venue we pick, because we do rotate through venues. We go to local bars, so it's super casual. We don't have any speakers. There's no cover charge. We don't charge people to attend. So it's super casual. You come grab a beer and then talk tech or talk with people who do tech about things that aren't tech. It's
Yeah.
tech is
Yeah.
the reason to come, and but not necessarily the conversations.
I founded and then for I don't know 6 or 7 years ran the Oracle users group here in Omaha, and I found that pretty easy. We do 2 in-person events, like meetups every year, and I had vendors, and they'd actually pay us to present and to have a booth, and use the Gallup facility to do those things. Kind of made sense to have it at work,
Sure.
and those worked out really well. I have not, and I did that for 7 years. I left that group with a positive cash flow. I mean,
Mhm.
and I always thought, oh yeah, I could recreate another one. I just, I just can't get, for whatever reason, I just can't get enough. Maybe it's the concept or the idea. I've tried getting podcasters together in
Mhm.
Omaha, and there's quite a few of us. But like you said, maybe I'll need to schedule. Maybe we should do it on a consistent date.
Yes.
Do you find the attendance up and down pretty consistent? The longer you do it, the better it is. I don't know. Any
It's
advice
it's
there?
it's up and down, and
Okay.
there are, like I said, a number of factors. It could be this time of year, like summer is generally less attended because people are out grilling or boating or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because we do it Thursday nights from 5 until 8. So, after work, the last thing you want to do in the summer is go avoid the sun in a dingy
Right.
bar.
Right. Right. No, right on. Right. And do you always do it at a bar?
Yeah.
Okay.
The last 2 months, we have been at a local brewery. They got a back room, and we're there again for March. And then we'll try another spot or maybe stick there.
Yeah.
Summertime, we'll do places that have patios so you can at least be outside and enjoy it sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, always a local bar. So we don't need any AV equipment or anything like that. It's just people
Right.
talking to each other. So
Right.
we need space.
Well, you also do a WordPress meetup
Yes.
group as well. And how often is that?
Ideally monthly. I have missed
Is
the
that
last
just you,
few
or do you
months.
have others
There's
involved?
a co-organizer, but she's recently retired from web development, so I'm not sure her intentions with continuing with the group. I wouldn't if I were her.
Yeah.
Brush her hands of it and go
Yeah.
enjoy your
Yeah.
hobbies. She's a avid birder. But yeah, I scheduled one finally. We did one in December, and then I missed January and February, and then I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I should do March, but it's already almost March. So I
Yeah.
have April scheduled, and April we'll talk about what's new in the latest version of WordPress that's due out at the end of March. But yeah, I've been with this group for a while, and I've been using WordPress since the very beginning, pretty much.
If I were going to set up a website today, is WordPress for the average guy still a viable option, or do I need to be a developer to do it?
I would say yes. A lot of this changes in the last few years have been more friendly in designing and controlling the formatting and the layout of your site. For if you've been using WordPress a long time, a lot of these changes are scary and confusing because they're new and different.
Yeah, they are for sure.
But I think it's
I've been
still a good
using
tool.
WordPress a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, this for this show 10 years, and
Yeah.
that's a long time. But I think you're right. I've watched WordPress in the last couple years. It seems like it's tried to be more friendly.
Yeah.
And then I think I've heard some of the community complain. It's maybe that's some of the hardcore folks kind of complaining like, oh, you're dumbing it down or whatever. I don't know if that's what they're saying, but
my biggest complaint is probably that they're doing it piecemeal instead of strategically.
okay.
It seems rolling out like you have the new interface editor. It looks completely different from the old.
Yeah.
And so you got the old style menus when you do everything else on the site, but then you go create a post or a page, it's this all new system. And so they just need to spend as much time on the other components as they do the editor, I think. I mean, content is the most important part, but it's been a few years now, so I think they could slow down a little bit and bring up some on the other
parts. It's a lot like Windows, right? I mean, it's so big. Doing a comprehensive overhaul to make everything the same is sometimes daunting, right?
Yeah. You can still occasionally, I think, even in Windows 10, I don't know if it's still there in Windows 11, but I think you can get the old Windows 3.1 style file picker sometimes.
I think so. It's very deep, but I've heard
you can
that.
still,
yeah.
Oh, I see a question in the chat there. From Bob there. Tom Lawrence is a local tech person. He comes to our meetups, friend of mine. I've been to his house. He's got the YouTube channel.
Nice.
And I don't know what I can say publicly, but I know he uses his channel to gain business for his company.
Cool.
So I'm a YouTube expert, and you want my expertise, pay me, and I'll come do your IT for your company.
Do you, in your day job, do you use WordPress, or is that just a side gig?
I do SharePoint, actually.
How's that going?
I get frustrated with some of the limitations and weird choices, but I've been using SharePoint for over a decade now. Just as a power user, I don't get to control any of the settings or administration on the server side. So whatever the company gives me, I take full advantage of the tools as an end user, workflows and adding custom style sheets or custom JSON or things like that. But I do as much as I can. I built our training catalog in SharePoint. We have an LMS that will manage it, but it's horrible, and I hate subjecting our learners to it. So I rebuilt a catalog internally that we manage and just deep link out to those courses in the LMS whenever possible, and don't have the learners interact with the LMS at all as much as possible. So
12 years ago, I oversaw our SharePoint implementation in Gallup, and it's just a little bit of a Frankenstein at times because they always are bolting things onto it. Right?
I would say probably my biggest frustration right now with the what they call modern SharePoint pages is that there is no built-in table of contents web part. So you have all your headings, but you have to manually link to each of them on the page. There's no automatic tool to do that. So that's probably my biggest frustration right now.
I think we were actually making good progress pre-pandemic on SharePoint of getting it to work for us.
Sure.
As being a hub for information and people using it. Teams destroyed that whole, Teams came, we implemented Teams. Nobody's looked back. They're like,
Okay. Well,
Teams is enough. That's all we need. We're not going back on SharePoint. I mean, our
Teams is
share,
powered by SharePoint. The whole
yeah,
back end of Teams is SharePoint. So
is it? Yeah, no, but from an interface standpoint,
yeah.
everybody's doing everything in Teams.
Mhm.
There's, we had groups and some chat stuff going on. We had Yammer
Yeah.
internally, right, doing that stuff. We did all these things to help people get to do it, and then what's funny is when we unified on Teams, we had to stop training. You didn't have to train on it anymore. Everybody just used it.
Yeah.
And then they went nuts with we could never get them to use the group functions of Yammer, but in Teams, I can't get them to shut up. Like they're in the group in the team settings,
Sure.
right? In those groups, they're creating new ones and hiding them and exposing them. And there's all kinds of chats going on all the time. I can't even keep up. And I'm a pretty good communicator.
Yeah, we use
So,
Teams at work, and they don't allow us to create new teams on our own. You have to submit an IT ticket, and it's all controlled that way.
yeah. No, we're wide open.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you can not a trust in that, and that's okay. It's worked. Listen, I've been surprised at how well it's actually worked.
Yeah.
Like when this first rolled out, I'm like, oh, great.
A couple of times a week, I do get an invite from a meet. Somebody scheduled a meeting with the team instead of with the wrong team or something. But
we did a whole financials upgrade this winter, and all the communication was on Teams.
Okay.
And I mean some email and some of those kinds of things, but 99% of what they communicated, they would say, "Hey, we did this. It's on Teams. We did this. It's in Teams. We're doing it. It's in Teams." So it has been. I mean, it's just it's crazy how fast we've adapted. I don't know if other organizations have done this, but
we are slowly adapting. I would say because a lot of the people I work with aren't tech savvy.
Yeah,
that's a little slower, and we were using Skype for business, aka Link, aka MS Communicator or whatever.
Yeah, whatever it was before.
Whatever it was until late 2019 or early 2020. So it was I think the pandemic helped push us towards Teams more.
Yep. Well, we had that Zoom, right? We for those who were sent home, not everybody got to go home, but for those that are sent home, it's like, okay, we're gonna do Teams, and they're like, no, but Teams doesn't actually work. So we're like, okay, we're gonna do Zoom, right? And I think everybody did that. Zoom was ready; it did its job. And then over the first year, we were like, we rolled out Teams internally, and it's worked. God, I can't believe I'm saying this. It's actually worked, which I listen, forever I tried to get folks to use Link and some of those kinds of things, but it just was never, none of that stuff was there, and Teams just came in and took over, so.
Yeah, I think the group or the concept of the team chat is kind of the driving factor, because Link was all individual, or you had to create your groups every time, and there was no permanent groups.
Yeah, no, we live in Teams. We still have Zoom implementation. We use that for international calls and stuff outside of the organization and stuff like that.
We have WebEx, I think, for some of that stuff, but I haven't used it ever since I started, so I don't know if it's a legacy thing or if it's for certain use cases, but I've never used it.
Yeah, it's funny how all of a sudden you just realize, although I think they've been doing some updates in the codec, now it's just as like I watched Zoom brings my laptop to a grinding halt as soon as I start video, right? And I'm noticing that's happening on Teams now too, which just makes me wonder. We know Teams is pretty intense.
What you were saying about not being able to keep track of conversations anymore in Teams, I'm that way on Discord now. I think I'm in 15 Discord servers right now, and I think that's probably about 3 to 5 too many. I just noticed lately that I was like, I'm not keeping up with conversations anymore. I think I've joined too many.
Yeah. I sort them, so I prioritize them in the left menu, right?
Yes, for
and
sure.
then for the first 5, maybe I'm checking those on a regular basis. Of course, our Discord group, theaverageguy.tv/Discord, is the number one. So I prioritize that. It sits in there, and then there's a few. The guys over at Think Computers, we're in their Discord group, and some of those, and then I got a few crypto ones that we go through. But the bottom ones, I don't get to them very often.
Yeah, I even have the bottom ones are hidden in a folder, even, or like a group of.
Yeah, you can do folders in them. That's pretty cool. That way, Brian says, without some oversight, it can get pretty chaotic in Teams, and that's true. I was super skeptical when we first rolled to that. I thought this is going to get out of control, and it actually hasn't. can't believe I'm saying this. So it's just been bizarre. I'm like, all of a sudden, I'm like, as I'm thinking about this, we're using Teams appropriately without even thinking about it, and very little governance. Like
Mhm.
nobody's come up and said, "Hey, stop making so many, stop making so many things in Teams." So that for whatever reason, that seems to
Sure.
keep working. Um, you like I tipped this off at the beginning of the show, but you like cooking, and I've
I
kind
do.
of gotten into it during the pandemic as well. Any favorite kitchen gadgets that you have that you kind of be like, man, I can't live without these things?
I'm a recent air fryer convert,
Oh
but
yeah,
I
I haven't
upgraded
got one, but
I upgraded
yes.
my air fryer to a convection toaster oven. It's a little more versatile.
Okay,
So it's the same heating
big
cooking method, but it's
big
a rectangle,
big
so it's a
square
better
one. Yeah,
shape than the
yeah, yeah,
basket
yeah,
that, you
yeah.
know, gotta reach into with tongs or whatever.
Right, right.
So I've roasted a whole
Plastic.
chicken in my toaster oven.
Yeah.
And then probably my next favorite gadget would be my Thermopop instant read thermometer.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
the they're on sale now because they upgraded to a new version too.
Oh,
So the current ones are $15.
oh,
If you
there's a
need
tip.
Yeah, if you need an instant read thermometer, go get it. Colors might be limited now because 'cause they're trying to sell them out, I think, but, they're cheap.
Yeah, I don't know how, and I've said this before, and I got to give all the credit to Mark Robson. I mean, Mark's been on the show every spring and every fall for the last, I don't know, 5 years.
Mhm.
And I remember 5 years ago him saying, "Jim, you got to cook to temperature." And I don't know why that was such a foreign thing to me. I had always, with burgers or chicken or any of those, I've kind of cooked to just feel, right?
Yeah.
And he was like, "No, you got to get a thermometer." Now, maybe that thermometer technology's gotten a little bit better. They got a little bit faster. They got a little
Mhm.
bit, because remember the old thermometers, that little it had the
Yeah, with the
round,
dial and yeah. Yep.
yeah. So maybe that's helped. But man, I don't know about you, but I find myself for everything cooking. I mean, the other day we made chicken Alfredo, and Sammy seared the chicken and then cut it before it was completely cooked. And she's like, "Oh, I'll just let it, cook through," and we put it back in.
Sure.
And just before she pulled the lid, she goes, "Do you think we should check it?" I'm like, "Heck yeah!" So just grabbed it, just make sure it was the 165 that we wanted.
Mhm.
But don't you think like that's just changed for me? That's changed everything in cooking. It's just temperature for everything.
Yeah, it makes it easier to keep your meats juicy.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
I
Right.
also have a probe thermometer that I can leave in when something is roasting, and
Yeah.
I need to get a new one though because the cord is frayed and I had to patch it up with some Sugru. Um, but, that's great too, I'll cook up pork roast or something and, pork loin and set the alarm to go off at 137 degrees and
Mhm,
pull it out and let it
mhm,
cook another 10 degrees or so
mhm.
as it's just carryover cooking. And everybody says, "Oh, how's your pork so tender?" I always, it's always dry and chewy for me when I cook. I was like, "'Cause I cook it to temperature and it makes a difference."
Yeah. No, it's incredible what you can do. The other day, I made a whole pig, pulled pork. So I got a shoulder. I got a pound and a half of shoulder, pound and a half of ribs, pound and a half of ham, pound and a half of loin.
Okay.
Smoked them all for 8 hours
Oh,
together
wow.
out in the smoker.
Yeah,
200, 225. Depends on how cold it is, right?
sure.
Just let it go all afternoon. Then pulled all of it together.
Oh, wow.
Oh, dude, totally changed pulled pork. Like, because I think a pork shoulder is pretty. That's why you load it up with barbecue
Yeah.
sauce because it's pretty bland.
Mhm,
This, we put a little barbecue sauce in. We made a little sauce, mixed it in as we were pulling it.
mhm.
So it didn't need it needed hardly any barbecue sauce. It was so good. But that was one where I was constantly going out and checking the temps just to
Yeah.
make sure I wasn't overcooking it, right? Because
Mhm.
you can do that. Um, John Big says he loves the Cyber Q controller for a smoker, which is a great way. It's another great way. I've been looking at grills. Do you grill much? Do you have a smoker or anything like that?
I'm in an apartment now, so no. I
Okay.
did have a barbecue when I was living in a house with a roommate, but,
Yeah.
I left that when I moved.
So the air fryer really becomes your indoor,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, I don't want to say an indoor grill because it's really not. But there's some
yeah.
cool things you can do with it, right?
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
it's convection. Do you have a convection oven as well?
No, it's just a
Okay.
regular oven.
Okay. Because I have a convection oven, and so I'm kind of wondering how different the
I don't
convection oven is from a convection cooker like you have.
It's pretty much the same thing. It's bigger, so it'll take longer to
Yeah.
heat up. But once it's heated up, it's pretty much the same thing. Just
Yeah.
circulates air around the food.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's super good. Yeah. Well, any others? So the air fryer, the thermometer, anything else that you're leaning into?
I would say back to the booze topic again would be
Yeah.
just having a good set of bartender tools, mixing
Yeah.
tins, bar
Yeah.
spoon, jigger. I like the Oxo's metal measuring cup instead of a jigger. It's metal. It's got printed gradients, so you can look down in the top and see it, see your measurements. So
Do you prefer metal over glass for mixing?
yes.
Why?
Well, I mean, for
For
mixing the
measuring, I should say. For
for
measuring.
measuring,
Yeah.
I can't find these tools in glass.
Oh,
I had a
okay.
plastic one, and it like citrus juice etched it. Or
Oh yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
how plastic gets all funky when you
Yeah.
store citrus juice in it.
Yeah.
Um, Plus, glass is more fragile, so if I drop it or bang it or whatever, I don't want it to break. If it's metal, it just gets dented.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Um,
want the reason I ask is we got this really cool. I was going to look for it. Got this really cool measuring cup. It's not this one, but here, let me throw it up on screen here. If you're listening to the audio, sorry about that. You're just gonna have to imagine. We
okay,
this ours is a little more flat on the sides, but if you can kind of imagine
yeah,
this 4-ounce mini measuring glass, which is really works well for mixing cocktails,
mhm,
right? And I like it because I can look on the side as opposed to with the metal with the metal ones, you have a 1 ounce and a 2 ounce. Now those are fast, right? When you got the
yes,
metal, you could fill it up, toss it in. You don't even have to think about it. But I know this is what I was thinking of when I was thinking of glass.
gotcha. I'm trying to find the one I have real quick.
We end up using the heck out of that thing. I mean, it just
Mhm.
becomes a nice measuring,
And I
especially if you're going to go. Like sometimes we'll go a 2 ounce pour, and then I'll want like a half an ounce for the simple syrup,
mhm,
which sometimes we use a liqueur instead of simple syrup, right, for it,
right.
and some of those kinds of things. And it seems like I can do it faster out of these glass mixers.
StreamYard chat for you. I guess I could
Okay.
share my
Yeah.
screen, but I don't know
Yep.
if I have it set up yet.
Here, let me slide this over here, and then we'll bring it up on screen again. Sorry if you're listening to the audio. We haven't done this in a while, but head out and watch the video. Let's see. Is it this one? Yeah. Okay. There we go.
So I like this. If you go to the next picture in the images
Okay.
there,
Yeah. Yeah.
you look down into it and can see the measurements instead of having to squat down to
Ah.
get eye level with it. Also, this
Okay.
one has a
Yeah.
pour spout,
Yeah.
so it's easier to pour out of.
Okay. It's called a jigger. I thought that was just what what you would nickname it, but that's what it's
No, that's
called.
what the bartending tool is
Yeah.
called. This
Yeah.
one, or you have the other style of jigger where it's the two cups on top of each other and you flip it over depending on how much you need.
Yeah. Hold on. Let's get back to this picture. Yeah. So you just look down in it.
Yep.
Huh. I might have to try one of these. $10 on Amazon. Not bad. That
Yeah,
other
not
one
bad at
was
all.
10 too. Yeah.
Here's a more traditional style jigger.
Okay. Let's see. I've got to reset that. Hold on. We'll stop sharing. Come back to it. Just wish that would have popped open in the same screen. That would have been nice. Yeah. Now this is the more traditional
Yeah.
that I think of, right? When we
And
think
I
about a
find
jigger.
these harder to pour out of. I'm not as skilled with them. I'm not a professional bartender, so I don't have the
Yeah.
skill.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
like the other style.
yeah. No, I like these. I mean, it depends on what I'm mixing. Like if I'm gonna make old fashioned,
Mhm.
and I know it's going to be a 2 ounce and some simple syrup. Although we use 43 liqueur as opposed to simple
Oh,
syrup,
yeah,
and for our old fashions, and it makes a super loaded old fashioned. Like it's loaded, right?
for
Because
sure.
the simple syrup, you normally would be no alcohol, and the 43 is 30%. So
Mhm.
but we like it a little tastier. You can do it in a jigger like this a little bit pretty fast, right? Not that you have to do it fast for those kinds of things,
Yeah.
but for those standard pours, we like to use those as well. Yeah. No, that's cool. Yeah, I found I'm just finding it as I'm spending more and more time cooking that having the right tools, it's just like anything, right? Having the right tools is super important. From a technology standpoint, are you a PC guy, a Mac guy? Where do you land in that space?
My personal life is all Apple. I use a PC at work, but everything I'm using a MacBook Air to talk to you now. I have an iPad Pro. I have an iPhone. I've got an Apple Watch. I'm all in on Apple.
Okay. Hold on, before I want to dig into that a little bit, but Bob says just to make sure we don't lose these, the OXO is way better than glass, as it tends to get dropped on the tile floor. So yes, although you probably could go Pyrex. I think some of those are made out of Pyrex, and you could go that route as well. And of course, those won't break. Is easy. And then Brian says he uses those tools better. Why? So why Mac? Is it just better for the learning stuff that you're doing, or
No,
why?
that's all professional, so that's all work on the PC. This is just
Oh, okay.
I
Good.
got a Mac in college. I wanted to see how it was, and I liked it, and I was somebody who was, all in on Windows for the longest time. I was doing stuff like, cleaning my registry and defragging and, all the Windows maintenance and reinstalling every 6 months to a year just because it kept getting weird and installing all these custom tools and things like that. And I just like, I'm done with it. I'm just gonna
Yeah. Yeah.
let it go and
Just
do
gonna
its
use
thing.
it?
Yeah,
You
just
mean
gonna
you're
use
gonna
it.
just use it like a computer?
I
That
am,
kind
yeah.
of thing? I listen, I have found I do so little, and maybe because you can't, but I do so little tweaking on the Mac,
Mm.
you know? And yeah, it's like I got Windows computers on either side, so I'm still using it, but I just don't I, and to be fair, I don't do as much Windows stuff as I used to, right? I just don't. Got Windows 11 and a few. Have you tried Windows 11?
I have
You got
not.
it
I don't have
installed
anything to
anywhere?
put it on.
Okay. And you could I mean, you just have to go into the
Well,
insider program if you wanted to do that. But
I can't do it on my work
yeah,
PC, and
yeah,
I could run it in Parallels now, I guess, here on the Mac, but I don't need
no,
to.
no, not worth it.
So I'm not
Probably
going to.
not.
Yeah,
No, definitely, definitely not worth it. Oh, by the way, I hadn't thought about it, but thanks, Bob. Producer Bob says it's called. If we use 43, it's called a bold fashion. I like
I like
that.
that.
I do, Bob. Maybe we'll call it the Bob in honor of you, Bob. I like that. We have a bunch of custom. Sarah, I shouldn't say we. Sarah has a bunch of custom cocktails that she makes. Her recipes. She's named them, but we'll have the Bob or what we call a bold fashion. I like that, Bob. Um, are you using any smart home stuff? I mean, you just said you moved into an apartment. Can you
Yeah,
bring
so
smart home into an apartment?
sometimes
Yeah.
I have some smart plugs that
Okay.
control my light. This big light here behind me is on a smart plug, so I can turn it on and off. And then I have a air circulator fan on a smart plug that it turns on automatically. I have automation set up in the home app on my iPhone, so I can say I'm going to bed and it turns on the fan for me, turns off all the lights. I have smart bulbs in all of my sockets here in the main room. I need to put some in the kitchen and dining room because they're on one switch, and by the time I get to the kitchen,
Mm,
I've passed the switch that's in the dining room, so if I can just leave the switch on and control it by a voice, that would be
yeah.
great. Because I have HomePod minis everywhere. I have 4 HomePod minis, and I'm in a studio apartment, so I have probably 2 too
Do
many HomePod
do
minis for a
do
studio
they get
apartment.
confused? Do
They
they
don't, but I don't know
okay.
that I need
Yeah.
as many in a small space like this.
Yeah. Our Amazon devices get a little confused sometimes, you know.
I have one of the problematic Eufy cams pointed at my
Oh,
front door, but
okay.
it's all using HomeKit secure video, so I don't
Okay.
have the problem
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
all using Apple on the back end and not Eufy's custom thing.
Right.
And that's pretty much it because I can't change out the light switches. I can't change out the
No.
thermostat.
No. But you can do quite a bit. And
Yeah,
sounds like you're using scenes. I think a
yeah,
lot of people use a good night scene,
yeah. I
right?
have
And
good night. It plays the HomePod on next to my nightstand. Turns off all the lights. Turns on the
yeah,
fan. I have a scene for when I arrive home. It turns on the light that's on right now, just so it's not dark when I get home. I have a scene. what are my other scenes? I have a wake up scene that is better than an alarm clock because it turns on all the lights and plays some streaming radio. And then I have a leave home scene that runs when I leave the house or when I say tell Siri goodbye. It will also. Oh, I shouldn't say that too loud.
No, you shouldn't.
Uh,
No, you shouldn't.
that will turn everything off.
Do you think scenes are easier when, like, you're you're in the apartment by
Mhm.
yourself? Do you think scenes are easier that way? If you had a roommate or a spouse or somebody else living with you, do you think that's harder on to get because you gotta
Depends on
like
how complex the scene is. I think if it just
yeah,
turns a bunch of things on together, no. But if are doing all sorts of weird things, then I would say unless your partner or roommate knows exactly what you're doing and how it works,
yeah.
yes, that's a bet.
I'm fortunate, Sarah, my wife, she knows how to do all that stuff, and we're pretty savvy with it. I
Mhm.
set up all the automatic stuff on the apps. I she doesn't want an app.
Okay.
She's like, I can't control it with my voice. I don't want to do it, right?
Yeah.
But so she doesn't. But I've thought about a scene, creating a Uyghur did it. Everybody I talk to's got that good night scene.
Yeah.
And I always think, yeah, I should do that. And then I'm like, yeah, but I don't know. So that's just it seems more complicated with people with other people in the house. I think if it's just me, it
Yeah.
might be a little bit easier.
I
I don't know.
also wanna try and figure out a scene that will turn on my TV and my Apple TV and set the HomePod to the right volume, but I haven't
Yeah. Yeah.
played it around with it enough to do that.
Have you worked with Home Assistant or any of
I haven't
those?
found a need for those yet.
Okay.
The Home app does so far what I need
Yeah.
it to.
Yeah. And that's the Apple one, right? It was what
Yes.
you're using. Yeah.
Yeah, the
And
built-in Apple
the
stuff.
HomePods are Apple as well,
Yes.
right? So you're completely Apple in that.
Completely Apple. I have the Apple Watch, I've got AirPod 2s, I've got Power Beats 4s, I have an Apple TV attached to
Yeah.
my TV that also it's a Roku TV, but it does AirPlay too, so I could do it that way if I wanted to. But I hate the Roku TV
Oh yeah.
interface.
Yeah.
It's so
I
basic
s-
and dumb
I
compared
su-
to Apple TV.
I surprisingly like the Fire interface
Okay.
for what it works for what I want. It's got a YouTube app. I actually have EarthCam TV up and running, which has been kind of cool. EarthCam TV just streams. It catches all these live webcams that are
Sure.
in high definition around the world.
Mhm.
And this week they've had a bunch on Bourbon Street in New Orleans. Of course, yesterday or Tuesday was Fat Tuesday,
Yeah.
and Mardi Gras. So it was funny to watch on Tuesday them getting ready for Mardi Gras, and it would just throughout the day it would just go to it'd show and more and more and more people lining up there. Kind of cool to have that on and just kind of available. It's seeing like right now it's in Waikiki, and you're like, oh, that looks pretty nice there today. So it's been fun to have that on.
Nice. Yeah, I like the Apple TV screensaver that will
Yeah.
show the animals
Mhm.
or the landscapes or the city flyovers. Speaking of Fat Tuesday, do you have a Polish community there in Omaha?
Oh, not a strong one. No, we
Okay.
used to. We used
Okay.
to, but I don't know if it's very strong
So you
now.
get punchki on Fat Tuesday or no?
No, 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 probably not. Is there one there in Detroit?
Oh yeah. Yeah, punchki are big. Hamtramck is a enclave here in Detroit,
Okay.
so it's surrounded by the city of Detroit, and it's a very large Polish community. So lots of Polish bakeries in the area, so you can get
Well,
your punchki for Fat Tuesday and all sorts of flavors. And
Fat Tuesday is such a great holiday. It's
yeah,
it's a it's an underrated holiday in the U.S.
hmm
We need to do a what's it a king cake? Is that the other
yeah,
right?
that's a New Orleans thing.
Yeah, it's a New
Yep.
Orleans thing. You hide baby Jesus in the
Yes.
cake. I'm seeing more and more of those cakes each year show up at work, which is kind of crazy. Like I brought in the king cake,
Yeah, being a French founded city, I'm surprised we don't do more Mardi Gras stuff here in Detroit.
Yeah, yeah. Detroit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, for sure. It's kind of fun. I think we should listen. The Americans have taken every other holiday on
Yeah.
and made it something interesting. I'm surprised that Fat Tuesday and Mardi Gras haven't become more. I mean, they're a big deal down there, right?
Mhm.
But haven't become bigger deals because here, well, we have a big Catholic community, and so St. Patrick's Day, of course, is a giant holiday
Mhm.
here in Omaha. So they paint the streets, and I mean it's just nuts out here. Um, Let's see. I had one other question I was going to ask you on the home automation side of things before I got distracted with Mardi Gras and Fat Tuesday. Anything else from a home automation standpoint that you want to highlight?
I like that the recent HomePod OS update unlocked the temperature and humidity sensors.
Oh,
The hardware's been there since they came out, but I haven't been
sounds
able
like
to use them
Tesla.
until now.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I can open the Home app and it'll tell me, or I can ask Siri what the temperature is.
Where do you
I gotta
find
stop
like
saying that word.
temperature? Yeah, temperature makes sense from a humidity standpoint. What do you do with that data? Like, how's that important to you knowing that what the humidity is? And okay, for
My
your
sinuses, dry
yeah,
nose
yeah.
like crazy.
You try and keep so do you try and keep your apartment there a certain
Yeah, I try to keep it 40 minimum.
okay. Yeah. Yeah. I have a Govee temperature humidity
Mhm.
sensor that's portable, Bluetooth driven. And I have it set up here in the basement just for that. Ooh, it's kind of low actually, as I'm looking at it right now. We try to keep it 40 as well, and I'm not doing a very good job. It's a 31.8 right now. So yeah, although I'm not, it's that time of year. It's not feeling as dry
Mhm.
maybe as it actually is.
Yeah.
Static,
Oh yeah.
nosebleeds,
Yep.
just dry air is pretty rough. It can be rough on your furniture and some of those kinds of things as well. So
Mhm.
but I'm always intrigued. I mean, I'm a little maybe obsessive about that, but I'm always interested in people how they use. I mean, internal temperature makes sense.
Yeah.
Not everybody knows what to do with the humidity,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, it's just
So
for sinuses and nosebleeds is the only
yeah,
reason I care about the humidity.
no, right on, right, no, right on. It's important for. I can tolerate it no matter what, but not
Mhm.
everybody can, right?
Sure.
So Brian says he loves his good morning scene, turns on one light in the living room, bright enough where I can get out of the bedroom without tripping over myself in the living room, not waking my wife, who gets up later, which is a great way to. I use my phone for that when I go in the room. I put my phone on a screen that's bright, and I just kind of use it as a flashlight, not the light itself, but just the okay, we just lost Randy. We'll get him back here in just a second. He probably closed out his window. But so not the light on this side of the phone, but I just turn on a screen and shine it down, and that works out pretty well too. Kind of allows me to get through the room and not wake Sarah up in the process. Joe says he really likes Android TV over Roku's, and Joe, I'm kind of with you as well that for whatever Android TV is fire, right? Just kind of works for me. I have a Fire TV down here. I have a Fire TV on the deck. I use Fire TV on the treadmill, and it seems to work. I think the app I use for it the most is the YouTube app, surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, right? Channels works well with it, so I can get to the TV if I want to stream something from a TV perspective, and so that works out well. Bob says humidity is good for when it's freezing outside and you need to reduce your humidity so it doesn't condense on your windows. And Bob, yes, that is true. We went from 50s to 6 last night, and so I kind of keep track of it that way to get it going. Hopefully we'll get Randy back. He just dropped off here if you're wondering why I'm stalling um for time here. So yeah, it's been this winter, I think more than other winters have I used technology. Here he comes. What happened, Randy? Did you close it out?
Heck if I know. No.
Oh,
He walked up on me.
no, no worries. You just froze up. I saw your face. I'm like, well, I'll just keep talking until he comes back. So,
No, everything, my Stream Deck plugged in and my microphone, everything started just flickering and
huh?
not responding. So I don't know if
No,
there's a Mac issue or an issue with my
no, no,
Thunderbolt hub
no.
or
Yeah, no worries. No worries. I figured you'd make it back. You'd make it back eventually. So you're a seasoned podcaster. You know the
yeah.
deal. You know the deal. You know how to
Yep.
get back. Any other thoughts on home automation or any of those things?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I do some stuff, but nothing super complex.
Okay. Yeah.
It's
And you
handy.
don't have to, right?
Um, the S lady does not always understand me or gives me weird errors. Like
Yeah.
my leave home scene stops all music, but sometimes I get an error that she can't find that media, which no
Mm.
music is not media. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know what happens there, but
Yeah. I get mixed reviews from people on the S
yeah.
Lady at times. People just are like, and on the watch, I'm
Mhm.
an Apple Watch as well, and sometimes it works really well, and other times you're like, not so much.
Home automation is the most problematic.
Yeah,
I think I don't have major issues with other things. Maybe she doesn't understand a question, but home
right,
automation is when she
right.
just fails or says I can't do
Yeah.
that. Or oh, I guess my other complaint is when it fails, it says check the home app for more information, but there's nowhere in the home app where it tells you what happened or what goes on. So I don't know why it says that.
It's a rouge.
Like
It's
every time I it happens, I look to see if the latest update is provided like some sort of error log or something.
yeah,
Because why is she telling me to
yeah,
check the home app for more information if there's no
yeah.
more information available there?
No,
I
yeah.
guess just the feedback in general, like when a scene fails, it doesn't say why. It just says the scene failed. It doesn't say which device or
Amazon isn't any better. I
yeah.
mean, it may be a smidge better. It's pretty reliable. I mean, rarely do I have
Mhm.
to say it twice. I do from time to time, and when it gets that same error, sometimes it's like check your app, and you go in there and there's nothing in there.
Yeah, when it works, and when it doesn't, it's super frustrating.
Yeah, Bob's got a good idea of using a humidity sensor in the bathroom to
Oh,
get rid
that's a
of
good idea.
moisture. Right? Hey, if it gets to a certain 50% or whatever, maybe 60%, turn
Yeah,
on
turn
the
on the fan.
fan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I like
that'd
that.
be a good idea if you could get that
Can't
set up
really
that
do that
way.
here at my apartment though.
No, you couldn't change that
Yeah.
because you would need. Well, yeah, you need to automate the switch, right? At that
Yeah.
point, yeah, yeah.
I
Well,
guess one other thing with the smart home stuff is I did set up two of my home pods as the stereo pair, and they're the speakers for my TV. Or they were the speakers for my Apple TV, and now with the latest update again, you can do audio return arc from your TV, so you can just do your
oh,
TV audio through the HomePods now too.
okay. And then so the home pods become speakers for the TV.
Yes.
Right, right. Yeah, well, that then two of them having four would make more sense for you,
Uh,
right?
yeah, I guess the two are the stereo pair. Then there's one on
Yeah,
the nightstand and one in the
yeah.
kitchen. So yeah,
I mean, you've got them.
yeah,
Might as well figure out some way to
exactly,
use them.
exactly.
I can't tell you how many times I've like, well, I've got the monitor. I might as
Yeah,
well plug it into something. All of a sudden, there's 10 monitors on my desk,
right.
and you're like, yeah, do I need another? Yeah, I need one more. Why not?
Yeah, and that goes
Why
back
not?
to our initial conversations outreach on Twitter. As I was suggesting, you get a higher resolution monitor more rather than
Yeah,
multiple lower
yeah.
resolution monitors.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
It makes sense,
Mhm,
right? But I do like space. I
mhm.
could go either way.
Yeah,
To be honest, I could go either way. It doesn't matter. This is, I think, so we were having this conversation when I was buying the monitor for the Mac because that was 2 years ago,
probably.
and
Yeah.
I was talking about an ultra wide. I was going to
Mhm.
buy a 34-inch ultra wide, and I think I eventually ended up on a 1080p. And I think you said go lower resolution or higher resolution,
Yeah.
right? Than that, and maybe a 2K or 4K or getting a little more space. So I actually ended up doing that. So when I bought this monitor, when I built this PC back in the winter, I ended up putting a 2K 1440 27-inch curved ultra wide as a gaming PC, and that monitor works really well for gaming, and for me 2K is enough. It was
Mhm.
under $200, so like, you're kind of like, or maybe right at $200. So I kind of did what you did. I just did it the next time
Yeah.
around, right? When I went to go do it. So no, I've really liked for podcasting, which is what I do on the Mac
Yeah.
primarily. A little bit of productivity, but mostly podcasting. The 1080p monitor is fine. Works just fine. And so
And I do
appreciate
4K, so I can have more of the audio on screen at one time.
yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. And maybe it's my eyes too. I think if I was going to go 4K, I would go with those Samsung. We talked about this when we had Ryan and Bob on, where
Mhm.
Samsung's got that 55-inch ultra wide. which
Yeah.
by the way is like it's like $1,700 right now. So like it's down from, it was 2,500 just 2 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at some point we may see those for like $1,000, which 55-inch ultra wide 4K, that's it's a lot of space.
Yeah.
And that would, to me, that would make sense at this distance. Like to have a 4K 55. I don't know how tall that is. It's much, I think it's taller than this 34 for sure. But I kind of get, I don't know, 34 and 27 is 50, 57, is that right? 34, 27?
Well, it's
no.
diagonal measurements anyway, so
You know,
it's
true.
yeah.
True. But still, those two monitors together are about what the 55, maybe a little wider than the 55, but
I just searched my Twitter and it was March of 2021 when
yeah.
we first
Yeah.
talked about it.
So
So
2
yeah,
years
almost 2
ago.
years. Yeah.
Yeah, 2 years ago. Yeah. It's crazy to think I've had the Mac that long. You know, I've been on that Mac M1 Mini for 2 years. Yeah,
Mhm.
no, I appreciate the feedback. Jim Shoemaker, who is also a longtime listener, he also encouraged me not to do 1080p.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's what I'm going to go with. You know, that's the decision I
Yeah,
made.
I mean 4K is 4 1080p screens all in one.
Right. Yeah. But a little bit smaller in
In
this
my case, yeah,
resolution.
because mine's
Yeah.
27, but you could go 43 4K and then it's whatever,
Mm.
the weird angle math again.
Yeah. No. That's true. That's true. 43
And
ultra widescreen.
no bezels in between.
Yeah, no, true.
If you don't maximize your windows in that case, you rearrange them so it's like 4 1080p windows all on screen at once. But
So work is kind of that way. So my work setup, which is right here,
yeah,
is 3 1080p plus the laptop in the corner that's on a stand, right? And with the lid up and the camera pointing at me so I can use Windows Hello to log in, and right. But I actually, for work, I actually prefer the separate monitors because I can quickly snap things around.
okay, yeah.
And I know that just works better. That just works better for me. At work, I have ultra wides, and it's funny. They're all different, so I have to reconfigure them every place I go to work. Yeah, got to reconfigure. Windows 11 is supposed to fix that. It's supposed to remember when you get to a new spot, and that's like, oh yeah, I remember this configuration, and it moves all the windows back to the way they should be. I haven't used it yet, but
I don't remember what
yeah.
it's called because I don't have my work computer here, but I have an app on that I did not install to anybody from my IT that's listening. It did not install anything. That you hold on
Nobody's listening. It's okay.
it puts a grid on your screen. So if you want to resize a window to a certain size, you hold on your space bar and then drag the window and then release, and it will resize it to the grid so you can easily make grids of
Yeah.
windows.
What's the name of it?
I can't remember because it's on my work computer.
Do you use Rectangle on the Mac?
Is that the one I use?
It's the
I use
one that
yes.
resizes. Yeah.
I was using Magnet for a while, and I think Moom is another popular one, but I did settle on Rectangle.
Rectangle's nuts. Like it gets you so many different configurations. You go left half, right half, center half, top half, bottom half, top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right, first third, center third, last third, first 2/3. Right? Love that. First 2/3, last 2/3, maximize, almost maximize, which is hilarious.
Mhm.
Almost maximize height, smaller, larger, center, restore. Those are all the options you get.
I always have to think for a minute when it's the third wordings of what does that actually mean.
Yeah. Well,
I found the Windows app. It's called a Window Grid. Windowgrid.net.
Window Grid. Okay. Yeah, and Joe is saying Windows 11 has a new feature, and I believe that to be true as well. That'll remember your laptop or whatever, and when you change locations, it'll recognize, hey, the last time I was here and these monitors were present, and it was this setup, this is the way you had it.
Gotcha.
That'd be so helpful because I switch in between two locations where the ultra, I have 34-inch Dell ultra wides in both, but they're in different configurations. One time it's on the right, the other time it's on the left. I've got a monitor and portrait on one side, and I only use one monitor. I only use the Dell monitor in another place. So it just would be handy. All the screens, I disconnect, all the screens crunch onto the laptop. And then I go to the next place, and it'd be great if I just plugged it back in and they all appeared till the last time I was there. So we'll have to see.
Oh, question from Brian F for me.
Yeah.
If he was wondering if I have any muscle memory issues moving back and forth between Mac and Windows.
Oh.
I don't usually, except yesterday I got sent home from work because of the ice storm. And so I hooked up my work computer to my Bluetooth keyboard here, and I was trying to use command shortcuts instead of control shortcuts, just because it's the keyboard I'm used to, not necessarily the operating system.
Yeah.
It's just this is my Mac keyboard, and so I was trying to use Mac shortcuts, but it was controlling my Windows computer.
That's the hardest part. I think about switching between the two is just the keyboard shortcuts. Otherwise, when I'm here or when I'm at work, and I don't use a Mac at work, but when I'm here, I don't see any OS difference anymore.
Yeah.
Just works out. Just works out pretty great. Here, I'll throw the link to that. You gave me that one to the Windows. We'll throw that in the chat room. Windowgrid.net if you want to hit it from the chat. Randy, anything else that I missed on our list here? I think we've had a pretty good conversation. Yeah. Anything else
we've talked about a lot of stuff. I guess we didn't really go too much into the technical part of the podcasting, but that can always be another topic.
Yeah, maybe we'll have you back. Save it for next time I have you back.
Yeah.
How's that sound? Good. Cool. Well, thanks for raising your hand and reaching out, and I jumped on a call and I got to know you a little bit, and I was like, yeah, let's do this thing. So I appreciate you saying yes and you jumping out here. I think earlier Brian had said he just got home and it was appreciating the show. He listened to us on the way home and then switched it over, and thanks for coming. Thanks for listening. I'm glad I sometimes ask myself the question, why am I still podcasting?
Sure.
And then I do shows like this and I'm like, oh yeah, that's why, because it's kind of fun when you're not worried. We're not trying to necessarily do anything here.
Yeah.
We're just having we're just chatting.
Just chit-chatting, yeah.
Yeah, just chit-chatting. I think in there people find interesting things to go. Joe, by the way, Joe caught your cat pillow in the back there.
Where is it?
There it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the internet meme, that angry lady yelling at the cat eating a salad. You got those pillows as pillows for my best friend for Christmas a few years ago.
Yeah. Good. Oh, Joe said his wife spotted it. So hello, Joe's wife. Thanks for, I don't know why you would be listening or watching this, but thanks for doing it. We appreciate it. You're probably the one female that's ever watched this show. So thanks for doing that. Well, can you hang for a minute while I kind of close things up?
I know the drill.
Is that okay? Okay. So let me remind folks as we go, if you want to join us in the Discord group, and Randy's out there as well. If you got some questions for Randy, he's just Randy Walker out there in our Discord group. Super easy. Didn't make it very difficult. Head out to the Average Guy /Discord. Get it done. Leave a message for us if you got a question or you want to cover something or you want to say something. Well, you got to do it in 30 seconds. But head out to homegadgetgeeks.com. The AverageGuy.tv platform, both web and media hosting, powered by, what are you showing there, Randy? You muted.
Bob saw the pineapple.
I
can't turn it on because there's no batteries inside.
There's no batteries. It's funny what people notice in there. Here, I'll tell you what.
I'm glad I cleaned up a little before I turned on the camera.
Here we'll do that so they can continue to find things in your background.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
The AverageGuy.tv platform, both web and media hosting, powered by Maple Grove Partners. Get secure, reliable, high-speed hosting from people that you know and you trust, and of course, that's Christian. If you need a hosting plan, you can still get it for $10. He is fighting inflation every single week out there at Maple Grove Partners. Get it done today. Visit maplegrovepartners.com. If you haven't checked out HelloFresh, now is the time. John Biggs, I'm a little disappointed with you. I saw on Facebook you were having a conversation about meal boxes, and you didn't come to me. I'm just a little. I mean, I know you sent me beer. I appreciate that, but you didn't come to me. Anyways, HelloFresh got a super good deal going on right now. Save as much as $110 on your first 5 boxes of HelloFresh. Pretty affordable. It's cheaper than eating out. Well, it depends, I guess, where you eat out. But man, I was at Chick-fil-A or one of those Canes, and they're like $10 it's like $10 a meal. And that used to be like 5 or 7 or whatever. Everything's getting expensive, but Check it out. Save $40 on your first box alone. Check it out today. theaverageguy.tv/HelloFresh if you want to take advantage of that. Of course, you can always send me an email. Contact the show, Jim@theaverageguy.tv. Track me down on Twitter, although I don't know how much longer I'll be on Twitter because they're doing these weird things with you got to pay for it to get the two-factor authentication.
Only
Randy, Twitter?
SMS. So you shouldn't be using SMS authentication anyway at this point. Use an authenticator app, and it's free for now.
Oh, that's the way I do it. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, then I'll be on Twitter at Jay Collison. I didn't quite. Maybe I'm one of those guys that didn't read all the news. I just saw the headline and didn't pay attention to it as well. Yeah, I use an authenticator app. So, track me down on Twitter at Jay Collison and rate, subscribe, review, all those fun things that you do. When you get out there. We are live every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central. Sammy is back next week. I had trouble getting her. She didn't want to come on the show because she didn't have anything to talk about. She was just really anxious about it. But she started this new job at the library. And Randy, I have a whole new appreciation for libraries. I had no idea they're doing some incredibly cool stuff. Our library you can check out a telescope.
Yeah. The lending library stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. They have 3D printers. They have a CNC over there.
Yeah.
They have a laser cutter over there. It's and then she was telling me all these things about all this different tech stuff that they're doing. I was like, how have I not known about this bastion of technology?
That is a good teaser for the next episode.
Yeah. So next week, join us live next Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, out here at theaverageguy.tv live. She will be back. By the way, I did say 8. It'll be 8:30. She works on Thursdays till 8. And so we'll go a little bit later. You can jump out here at 8. We can chat and whatever, but she'll be back next week to get it done. We'll do a smidgen of post show. With that, we'll say goodbye, everybody. Well, hey, I made it through. I guess I'm not all the way through the beer yet. I've got a little bit left. Is my talking okay? Am I still okay?
I think you're okay. Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, Randy, thanks again for what does a spring in Detroit look like for you? Is anything you're looking forward to doing in Detroit in the spring as things start to warm up?
I might do what is called the Marche de Nain Rouge. The Nain Rouge
sounds like a dance.
It is actually an annual parade, end of March.
Okay.
So not quite springy, but the Nain Rouge is kind of a little mischievous spirit.
That
is responsible for all the city's ills. So every March they do a parade to drive them out for the year. And it's kind of a hyper-local holiday celebration.
I like it. What takes place in said parade? Is it
costumes and music? And
nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a little bit of it's a little Mardi Gras.
Mardi Gras-ish, yes.
Okay. But probably better that they wait. So maybe the whole idea, like Mardi Gras, maybe this answers our question of why Detroit doesn't have a thriving Mardi Gras culture, because it's super cold usually at that time. So maybe they pushed that down a little bit and they just called it something else.
I just sent you the link, but there's floats and marching and a big old parade.
Let's pull it up here. No, let's see. That's not working for me. What are we missing in there? Try that link again for me, would you? I don't know why it's not. No, it's not coming up for me. Let's try this one. Huh. Okay, hold on. Let's copy it. Let me take it over here. Let's try it there. Oh, there it goes. Okay. For some reason, Edge didn't like it. So
weird.
Well, it's okay. We put it in Brave and it was just fine. So let's go over here. So we'll bring that up.
Yeah, it's just a few blocks through one neighborhood, but you scroll down, there's some pictures of. There are no pictures. Why are there no pictures?
Maybe Brave is blocking them.
Oh, that could be.
Huh. Well, not as exciting as we thought.
That's all on your computer, because I see pictures on mine.
No, definitely my computer doing it. Well, that's okay. So, is it an afternoon small parade kind of thing? Yeah,
like 5 or 6 blocks through one of the neighborhoods, and But yeah, it's I've always wanted to go, but now that I actually live in the city, I might actually do it.
Yeah, no, it sounds fun. It's good to get out. Oh, here's some. Hold on, my pictures are back. Let's see. I've got another page here. And I'm assuming it gets pretty good. It gets pretty good participation from the city.
Yeah.
No, just one picture. Shoot. Okay.
Everybody loves an excuse to drink in
Oh,
public,
for
right?
sure. For sure. Yeah. Especially if they let you smoke cigars out there. No, I probably not. Do you guys have is Detroit a non can you smoke outdoors?
Yes.
Like cigars?
I believe so.
Oh, okay. We have Omaha's pretty strict. Like there's you really can't smoke anywhere in the city. They've kind of locked that all down. So it's really hard to find. You go to a cigar bar or something like that if you
Gotcha.
want to, but
Okay.
gets a little bit there.
Yeah, we have like a ban 25 feet from doors or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. It's good. So Bob was saying earlier about the SMS. He said, no, that's not what he said. I mean, he did say that, but he said something about maybe it was costing too much. People were setting up accounts with premium to SMS, and they were paying $60 million a year in SMS bills.
That's a big bill.
It's a big bill. Yeah. Oh, I guess it got hacked. Paid SMS hacked. So, yeah. Well, okay. I'll have to. We'll stay on Twitter for the foreseeable future. No, thanks for that. I was getting ready to. I was like, well, I'm gonna have to close down my Twitter account if I can't do 2-factor. But I use the app. Well, guys, if you're listening live, thanks for hanging out. Come back next week. We'll promote it big time, but come back and see Sammy next week. She's kind of excited about coming on and have something fun to talk about. So we'll see you guys next Thursday. Remember, I'll probably jump on at 8, but we'll start at 8:30. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks.